Hey guys, so as you can see from the title, today we're going to talk about how to build meaningful connections. And I want to first start off by introduce with you about my friend, a very good friend of mine here in the US. Her name is Ashlyn Wild. Is that a correct way to pronounce her whole name? So I'll let Ashlyn to introduce about herself and why are you interested in talking about this topic?
That's a great question. First off, I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me to talk about this with you. I think it's really important to have meaningful connections with people because I don't believe that we were created to live life alone and fully independent. I've had seasons where I've walked by myself a little bit more, and it's been a lot harder to function and process things and feel okay versus seasons when I am really close to people I care about. I feel totally different. I feel much more connected to myself and those around me. So I just really enjoy getting to talk about meaningful connections.
Yeah, I feel like this topic is very natural for us, you and me, because I love the friendship that we have. And I take the pride for myself for building connections in the US from scratch because I don't have any family members here. So I first came here and all by myself, and I had to make an effort and also experience how to make friends, make meaningful connections here. So I feel like I can share a little bit about that, and for anyone out there who wants to build more deeper connections with people can have some ideas to how to do it. That's right. I'm pretty successful in this, you guys.
Take notes.
So yeah, let's dive into it. So for me, I think there are 5 factors contributing to a good connection between two people. We're gonna talk about the beginning, like how are we making friends, and it's gonna be making friends and then get to know them, and all the way to a very deep level of two people want to hone in that relationships or friendship with each other. I want to start off with this first factor, which is being open-minded. So for me, being open-minded is very crucial when making friends. Maybe you don't know this, but at first, when we met, we had our very first conversation at our home group. I didn't think that we are gonna be this close.
What?
Yeah. Yes. Because I just came here, right? And everything is so new, and you are very welcoming and very extroverted compared to me.
It's funny that you say that because I think sometimes that you're more extroverted than me. I think maybe in the setting that we first met, it was a very social environment. And so I knew, okay, I need to engage with people. I'm meeting a lot of new people. So it does take more energy to meet new people than it does to engage with people that you already know. So maybe that's why you were a little off-put by how I was showing up. But I'm thankful that you stepped past that first impression.
No, but in this, I have to give the credit to Ashlyn because she was the one who made the move to ask me to have lunch together, ask me to go for a coffee together. When we just in the very beginning of our friendship, or like two people getting to know each other. And at that moment I was like, okay, just go to see what happened. But it is you who make this happen initially. And really thank you for that. And I also thank myself to be open-minded at that time, to just be open and see how things can go. And we have this relationship, friendship, right? So that the first thing for me is don't judge people too fast. Like, oh, this person, I'm not gonna hit it off with me, or I only can connect to this kind of specific people. So yeah, there are a couple of friends who I didn't think that I would be friends with them, but turned out to be very good friends. So yeah, that would be the first lesson for me.
Well, I am very honored and encouraged that has encouraged and challenged you as well in your friendships as you have grown as a person, just in general. I think that's part of why I love getting to talk about friendship, is because it does challenge and grow us. But I've tried it before to only spend time with people that I know or that are similar to me or have a similar personality or things like that. I've tried that. It's kind of boring. After a while, you're kind of like, okay, we're all kind of thinking the same thing. And I think it's important to be willing to try to get to know other people that are different from you. And you can learn different things along the way, but at least taking that first step is important.
Yeah, taking that first step. I like that quote.
One step at a time.
One lunch and one coffee at a time.
There you go.
Then the second step or the second stage will be when we spend more time with each other, we start to learn more about the other person's values. And I feel like for meaningful connections, shared values are the backbone of that. Like I can be socialized with people, very different people, but who would be the one who I connect to the most? It would be the people that I share the value with. So yeah, we can hit it off because we play good sports together or study the same field and talk about marketing maybe, but at a deeper level, like who we are as the person and what do we care about, what do we value and what is important for us. That would be the point, that would be the factors where I connect with that person most, and that relationship can build from that foundation. So with you, I think the thing that connects us is kindness. I think that Ashlyn is generally a very kind person, and I tend to be kind, and I also try to be kind, or that is the value that I want to embrace more about myself. So yeah, it is very natural for us to connect in that way. So for me, shared values is very important.
And I think it is important to note that in the frame of this conversation or this video, it isn't meaningful friendships, it's meaningful connections, like that kind of piece of it. So we can have friendship with a lot of different people, and that can maybe be a little more surface level, like you said, you can be unified by your sport or activity or your major, but it is the values that leads to the meaningful connection piece of it, because you can be friends with anyone, you kind of can, but to have a connection with everyone is so much harder. And that really is done through things that you care about, those shared values, what drives you, what gets you up, why are you taking steps forward? And
why you do what you do.
Yeah, and for some people that can be they're driven by their career, or they're driven by their family, or their friends, their community. Maybe it's a religious thing that's driving them as well. There's a whole different spectrum of what that can be. But it is important for meaningful connections for that's usually related as well.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned spiritual aspect, because I think the moment when we clicked is when we start to read the Bible together. And I feel like this journey of me in the US is also the journey of spiritual for me. So having Ashlyn is a follower of God, and we can talk about that deep things. I feel like, wow, I cannot just talk about that with anyone. And
yeah, that is a deeply important thing to me, is my relationship with God and walking with Him. And I think that grew in importance for you over time as well, something you're seeking to understand more. And that, you're right, and that became a big shared bond, a shared love for us, something that we could pursue and go together. And I and honored that God let that be such a big part of our meaningful connection as well. I think that was him seeing and knowing me, and also seeing and knowing you, and recognizing that that would be a good way for us to connect as well. I don't believe that the night that we met, you just happened to show up. I believe that God really wanted you to be there, and I'm really thankful for that.
So now we have come through some coffee dates and then
ice cream,
and then know the values of the other person. And now I feel like this time when the weakness appear in the picture. So vulnerability is really something that you can use or can hang in to connect with the other person. Because vulnerability is very vulnerable.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to put up a front. It's a lot easier to be like, oh no, I'm doing great, everything's fine, I have everything under control.
Put in that brave face to the world. Yeah. But especially, it is very easy to be vulnerable with people that you've known for a while.
That's true.
Not new friends.
That's true.
Yeah. But in the very first home group, it left a lasting impression on me. Do you remember what is the topic that we talked about that night?
It was a long time ago. But I think you remember more than I do. So what was it?
It was loneliness. Yeah. The very first time we came to home group, and we talked about loneliness with people that we met for the first time.
Wow. Yeah.
And I have to give the credit for other people who made that questions, the list of questions like, how are you feeling? Are you feeling okay? How are you dealing with loneliness when you are an international student coming here in the US? And our group talk about loneliness and how lonely it can be sometimes for us. And I feel instantly connect to other people. Yeah, so it's not about, oh, I've done this, I achieved this, but it's about what I'm struggling with is the anger for us to connect.
Yeah, it's when we put our hearts out on the table for other people to see, that's a vulnerable thing, especially like you said, meeting people that you don't know. But I want to say that that's a very brave thing for you to do, to show up and not know the people that are there, but to voice, oh, this is what I'm experiencing. And it's a little scary to take your heart out and say, oh, I don't know you, but this is what I'm experiencing. And I think there's a lot of joy and healing that can come from that too. Yeah. Because if we just keep things inside, whether we know the people or not that we're talking to, it can kind of eat away at us. But I am really encouraged that you felt that you had that was a safe space for you to share that. Then also in our friendship too, over time, as our own depth grew, I noticed that you became a little more vulnerable with me in different things, and that was always so sweet and encouraging for me, because I knew, oh, she trusts me, like she wants to be in this friendship. This isn't she just wants to get coffee with me, or she just wants someone to talk to. But okay, what are the deeper things going on in life, and how can we talk about those things? So I appreciate that about you.
Yeah, thank you. So one question about this vulnerability thing is when or how to be vulnerable. Like we cannot just meet people and, hey, this is what I'm dealing with, and I'm sad, right? So it has to have a right time, or
Yeah, it's tricky. I really like processes and formulas. So I wish that we could say, if this situation happens and blah, 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 if all these things are in place, then, oh, that's the right time. But I think it's a little more nuanced than that. I think it takes a little bit more discernment kind of to figure out when the right time might be. because like you said, with that home group that you came to, again, you didn't know those people, but you knew that was a safe place to vocalize what you were feeling. Whereas if you randomly got connected to a stranger and met them at a coffee shop, like you wouldn't be as vulnerable because the space would not have been set for that. And so it's not, I don't know if it's as black, at least I don't think it's as black and white.
Yeah, it's not.
But maybe the question we can think about is, how can we be people that create a safe space for other people to be vulnerable? Like, what does that look like? I don't know.
Like, how can we create more safe space?
Yeah, or how is the way that we live our lives or spend time with people, how do we talk to people so that they know that they can be vulnerable with us with things that they're experiencing?
I told you, Ashlyn is kind.
I'm going to answer my own question because something did come to my mind.
Okay.
I think to help create those spaces, we have to be vulnerable ourselves too. If we, but it's a dance, you know. I don't think there's going to be a formula that's perfect. But if we want to create those spaces, a lot of it is us being vulnerable too. But you have to watch out because sometimes that can lead to unhealthy relationships if you share a little bit too much too soon. Yeah, you have to be careful with that. That's a whole other thing. We're talking about good friendships here.
Yeah. Being the person that you want to spend time with and to be friend with first, and then yeah,
that's important too.
I feel like being vulnerable with each other is like a point where you can say that a friendship can reach a certain point where two people can just feel like that's a safe zone for me. That's a safe person for me to say what's bothering me, right? I think the fourth stage is trust. So after from all the way from the beginning, two strangers, right? Like meeting each other and then having conversation in the surface and then go deeper into the point where we can be honest about ourselves with the other person. And that's when trust comes into the picture. Trust that with that person, you can say things, you can ask for opinion without the other person judging you.
I think it's interesting that you note the piece about the other person not judging you, because sometimes I think that just the way we as humans are is that we tend to judge people. Like I just think that we do that when they're different than us. But what I hear you kind of pointing to or saying instead is you may feel comfortable and you have the trust to share with someone, and you may know, they may not agree fully with me, but I still feel safe to share with this person, and I still know that they care for me and they're going to love me regardless of what I say, and their own judgment is their own kind of thing that they need to deal with and work through, but it's the fact that you feel comfortable to say that anyways.
I love that. Yeah. One thing about this trust stage is that we should be honest to each other, right? So I remember there are a lot of times when I told Ashlyn what I did, and then Ashlyn was very honest, and in a kind way to tell me that maybe it's not the best thing to do. And after that, I didn't realize I was not reasonable before, but she is still very willing to point out to me, see that it makes me grow. So I have no problem with that.
That's good. I don't think everyone carries that opinion of necessarily wanting other people's input all the time, but I think that's, like you said, that's how we grow. That's we have to grow by being challenged. But I think there also has to be an internal invitation for the challenge. We have to be willing to receive that, because we can just keep going along our lives by ourselves, and kind of similar to what we talked about at the beginning a little bit, we can only spend time around people who are similar to us, but being around people that are different, with different perspectives, allows us to grow even more in our understanding of ourselves, our understanding of other people. So it's all connected.
So don't be afraid of differences and conflicts, because that's where you guys connect to each other even more.
Yeah.
Communication, and then talk about like, hey, this is what I want.
Yeah.
This is what I think, and we don't see eye to eye in this matter. So how can we resolve this? Yeah. So it takes effort.
Yeah.
And a lot of understanding.
Yeah. And I actually really do not like conflict. I'm pretty avoidant of like if there's issues with people that I have. I really don't like to have those kinds of conversations.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's something that God has really been growing in me actually, because I've thought about it and been thinking about it more, and I've been praying and thinking, how can I step more into communicating how I'm feeling based on things, and acknowledging that by voicing how I feel, it may initiate or start a conflict, but it's actually not as big of a deal as I'm thinking, because the other person also trusts me, also cares about me, wants to resolve it with me too. And so I think we can hype conflict up in our head a little too much sometimes. It becomes this big war, but it's not at all the time. There still can be serious things that need to get worked through, but
because deep down we care for each other, right?
Yeah.
So whatever the other person feels, we can handle it, or we will try to handle it.
Because the priority isn't, I want to be right in this conflict. The priority is, I care about this person and I want restoration in our friendship.
Friendships, relationships can go through different stages, and life can interfere. Like we can be very busy at some point, and really doesn't have all of the attention like before to care for the other person. So I feel like effort that we have to make to keep it, to build it up is equally important as all of the other factors that we've talked about. So yeah, for me, we just need to keep in mind that we have that person in our life, and how grateful we are for that person, for that people, for those people. To once in a while, just check in, like send them a text. If you guys cannot just meet up like this or spending a long time with each other, you can just send a text or doing some check-in to let the other person know that the other person still cares for me and thinks of me. I think that's little thing is meaningful for me, and it can make my day.
And I think even in our friendship, we walked through that a little bit. I think this past fall, you had a lot going on in your transition with your job, but I also had a lot going on in my transition with my job too. And so the amount of time that we got to spend together looked different and was not as frequent, but there were texts here and there, little touch points like that. And then this spring, of things have shifted or slowed down a little bit for both of us. We've been able to jump back into things, and I think that speaks to the depth of our friendship as well, and that we're able to kind of pick things up where they were. And again, the depth is part of that. If we were just surface level friends, then you kind of have to start over, but we already have gotten to that deep place of trust. And so it's kind of easier to bounce back with that. But we can still, there's going to be ebbs and flows, I think, of friendship sometimes too. But I'm in it for the long haul.
Me too. Yeah, absolutely. And if we don't make effort, it's so easy for us to drift away. Like life happens, and there are a lot of distractions. And
there's people in the world all around us. We can really be friends with everyone if we wanted to. And I think even the past couple months have been a little challenging for me, because I did have a lot of connections or like reconnections with people that I've been friends with before. And yes, those conversations were meaningful and deep and still like things that were life-giving to me. But I realized during that time I was kind of missing some of the deeper like conversations, people who really see me on a regular basis. I didn't do as good of a job of prioritizing those. And so that's kind of leading me to evaluate, okay, how do I make sure I have time with people I have meaningful connections with, while also still connecting with people who are still friends, but recognizing the priority of the depth too. So it kind of plays it together.
I cannot do solo, like in any kind of relationships, either it's friendship or romantic relationship. I cannot go solo, or anyone cannot go solo. Like you are the person who tries to reach out all the time. No one wants that. No one wants to do that. So
there has to be mutual interest, mutual pursuit, the mutual desire to grow with one another. Otherwise, it will fizzle out.
It will
fizzle out.
Fizzle?
Like.
Yeah. So give and take, you guys. Give and take.
Yeah.
And this reminds me of some people in my life. I feel like we don't have deeper. We cannot be close with each other because they only care about themselves and like talk about themselves and then just reach out to me when they need help. It doesn't work that good. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. So I don't think it's a good way to interact with other people. Not only to build deeper connections, but to
Yeah. We as humans enjoy talking about ourselves a lot. I think we can all probably talk about ourselves for a long time. We can talk about our days, we can tell people all the details of everything we're experiencing, but it takes a little more work to ask your close friends or ask those who are close to you, hey, tell me more about what you're experiencing, but let that be a mutual thing, or a back and forth of seeking to understand and know each other in that space, because otherwise it's like you're listening to a podcast or something. Maybe that's harsh, but it wouldn't be as much of a meaningful connection if both people are not feeling heard and understood. And I think sometimes in friendship, though, we have to be selfless. Sometimes we have to show up and spend time with someone and know that, okay, they may have a lot going on right now. They may not be able to meet my emotional needs, but I recognize right now I need to be here for this person. And there will be times in the future when it may flip and I may be the person in need. But that's part of the two-way relationship aspect of it, and being okay with showing up and giving a lot to help this person, and knowing that as our friendship continues, there will be opportunities for them to do the same for me as well.
It's so heartwarming to hear that. Yeah, I think I experienced a lot of that. I learned to give more for the past 2 years, and I'm still growing. And thank you for being my so good friend. I learned a lot from you.
I learned a lot from you as well.
I think I learned a lot more. Yeah, so you guys, that is our 5th factor contributing to meaningful relationship or friendship, which is commitment. And as you guys can see, we've been through all the 5 factors, and I'd like to sum it up a little bit. So first is when 2 people make friends for the first time, and we need openness, being open-minded to accept the difference and just be willing to meet with each other and have the willingness to get to know the other person. The first thing is openness, open-mindedness. The second thing is shared values, right? I think that's the foundation when real connection can happen. That's very core, like human being core. The third thing is being vulnerable, right? We need to be willing to let the other person see our weak sides, and that would be a very interesting connecting point of 2 people who think that they are doing a good job in their life, but yeah, they can be the shoulder to cry on for the other person when things get hard. The 4th stage is trust. So I feel like this when things got easier, right? Because we have the trust in the other person. This is a safe zone for us. When you know that you can be fully yourself in this zone, and it will take more conversations and even conflicts for 2 people to get closer and understand more about the other person. So that's about trust. And the last thing, last but not least, is commitment. When it takes 2 in any friendship or relationship, and the balance of give and take can be in the gray zone. At one time you can be the person who gives more, but the other time you can be the person who receives more. So I think the key factor, the key word in this stage is try to be as much understanding and selfless as you can. Yeah, so that's our thoughts and our experiences in how to build meaningful connections. I hope that you guys, when you watch this video, you have had and you will be having meaningful connections, friendships with you in your life because it's what life's all about, right? Like,
I don't think we were created to live life alone.
So thank you so much for coming here and have this wonderful conversation with me. I love our time here today.
I loved it as well. Thank you.
Bye.